But they approached us and said, "Hey guys, SpaCon is going away. Yeah, this will be the final year." This is an event that the local community absolutely has embraced. That's the biggest takeaway for us was the love of SpaCon. I mean, seeing people. As far as like, one of the things that we heard a lot of or saw a lot of online was like, nobody asked my opinion. And you're right. But now that we are behind holding the reins, now that we're in charge, how do we get the opinions of the people?
Right.
We can run online polls.
Today we're going to be speaking with Joey, who's going to be stepping into a key role during the transition of SpaCon. And we're going to bring you some questions that the community had just to kind of clarify what's going on and, what we can expect.
Okay, sounds good.
First question. So what exactly happened with SpaCon? I know we talked about it last time. So you guys didn't actually buy SpaCon, they approached you guys, correct?
Yeah, so I'll just back up just a second. Yeah, my role with the company is communications, media, that kind of stuff. So social media posts, keeping the website updated, email campaigns, press releases, interviews, that kind of stuff. That's kind of what I do during the week, Monday through Friday. And then on the weekends, I work the events. I'm one of the MCs at the stage that does the Q&As with the celebrities and stuff. So that's kind of what I do. So any questions you guys have at any point, if you email me, if you direct message, text them, whatever, that I'm 9 times out of 10, I'm the person who you're sending them to, and I'm the one responding. So just kind of a quick, here's the face of the person you're talking to when you send that stuff.
So you're that front line.
That's right. Yeah, I'm the one that takes all the arrows and the bullets, and then I just pass on the message. So when they say don't shoot the messenger, that's me. Don't shoot the messenger, please.
Please, I have to deliver
resident. Take that. Yeah. But no. So you had asked about SpaCon, how this kind of happened back in early April. VXV Events, the company I work for, was approached by the folks at the Convention Visitors Bureau. And I'll probably just abbreviate that as CVB going forward, or I might even say the city. If I say the city, I'm not talking about your mayor, it's the CVB. But they approached us and said, "Hey guys, SpaCon is going away. Yeah, this will be the final year." I'm not sure why they didn't make that a bigger public announcement kind of thing. Cause if it'd been me just thinking the marketing side of it, I'd have been like, this is it. Bring everybody back. If you've ever been to SpaCon, come say goodbye. But they chose not to, which is fine. That's their choice.
Right.
But they said, "Hey, SpaCon's going away with this year's event. This will be the last one. So we won't have an event in Hot Springs like SpaCon. That September date is going away. We got a beautiful venue. Why don't you guys just move your September Arkansas Comic-Con that you do in Little Rock down to Hot Springs from now on?" That was a no because we've made that show's been there for almost a decade, and we've made a lot of connections both with the venue at the State House and in the city. We worked with the Chamber of Commerce and their Convention and Tourism Bureau there as well. So taking something that's one of our bigger and more successful shows of the year and moving it just did not feel right.
Yeah. They just wanted to. You transplant that show over here?
So hey, listen, if you could bench Michael Jordan for us and put in this guy because he's a local, no, that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So we said, no, we're not going to do that. And then they came back to us after a little while and said, well, what about just doing a show in Hot Springs? Because again, SpaCon's gone. There's not really anything else going on in terms of this kind of pop culture, nerd culture kind of thing. Would you guys do that? And so we said, well, let us do our due diligence. So we talked to a number of folks involved that have been, the representation for different clients that have been to SpaCon. We talked to some of them, talked to, just different people that touch different areas of the business.
Right.
Just to kind of get their feel of is this, something we should pursue or not. But the last part of the due diligence was we are going to send some folks, including, if the major decision makers for that kind of thing. We're going to send them to SpaCon in September and just kind of to observe and see kind of as well. some boots on the ground, get a real feeling of it, because you can talk to people all day,
Right.
but until you're there and get the vibe and all that really doesn't mean a whole lot.
And you don't also know what's going on. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And what do they usually do there? You can look at a schedule online, but that's totally different than actually being there.
Seeing it for yourself.
I see how many people actually go to this type of event or whatever.
Right.
So we had folks there, and the one thing that we saw, I mean, there were some things we saw that were like, yeah, that's awesome. There's some things we saw that were like, ooh, we can do that a little bit different and maybe make that a little bigger or a little better.
Right.
And then saw some things that, just like, yeah, this is an event that the local community absolutely has embraced. That's the biggest takeaway for us, was the love of SpaCon. I mean, seeing people in key shirts from, 5, 6, almost 10 years ago, wearing the, people that come and get the shirt every year and they just wear whichever one happens to be clean on that day. But, so yeah, it's SpaCon itself was, is a thing. It's like, you have a brand here, you have something here, you have something that the people already love and enjoy. So
yeah,
rather than us, our counter after September was, rather than us starting something brand new from scratch, calling it like Hot Springs Comic Con or something, which I think is what they kind of were wanting us to do. We said, why don't we just do SpaCon?
Right.
Let us have the name, let us have the digital assets like the website, the social media, all that stuff, and a few physical assets like signs and banners, logos, things that have been printed up. But just we'll just do SpaCon.
Right.
And eventually,
what is that brand recognition? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, why would you change something? You don't need to change it just for change's sake. And that's what it felt like it would be. It would just be changing it for change's sake. So we said, yeah, we'll do this. And so, yeah, in early October, I think everything was negotiated, finalized, pen to paper. But yeah, to your point, no money changed hands. They just asked, would you be willing to do a show in Hot Springs? And our answer was, sure, we'll do SpaCon.
Right.
So that's kind of how all of that came together.
That's one thing that a lot of people didn't know. They didn't know that this was going to be the last SpaCon. Like you said, they didn't do any of the marketing that was like, hey, this is going to be the last one. They were just going to, I guess, just kind of let it fizzle out. And
I think I can't speak to why they chose to do things the way they did. I wasn't in the room when they made their decisions.
Right.
I was just thinking about it from like my perspective. Like, hey man, I would have had that on a T-shirt. I would have had that everywhere.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I'm like we're saying, like a lot of people are asking like, what happened, who bought it, whatever. And what you're telling us is you basically saved SpaCon. Like if it wasn't for you guys stepping in, then we wouldn't be having one.
The decision to kill SpaCon had been made. I guess the final hoorah, it was going to be taken off life support or whatever that Sunday, the last day of SpaCon, and we just went back and plugged the machine back in and said, so don't take off life support. Don't have information. It's natural to fill in the blanks, right? That's what we do as people. So yeah, the idea that like, oh, these corporate raiders came in, they're running our show out of business or whatever, bought our show.
Tiny little con.
That is not at all what happened. I mean, I can understand where people might have gone on that route when they were thinking of things of like why this might have happened, but all of that kind of stuff was totally, sorry, you missed the mark. That's not what happened.
Right.
It just, we're just, hey, let's just do SpaCon.
And anytime anything like this happens, people are going to speculate, no matter what.
Yeah, absolutely. And nobody holds that against anybody. We understand that, again, we're doing this because people are passionate about SpaCon. So we understand, if people are upset because there is a change, which happens no matter what the change is. Right. Some people are going to get upset. Right. We understand that, and that's to us. That's like, yeah, they're passionate about SpaCon. This is a good thing if we can figure out a way to, turn that passion and put it into like making this thing bigger and better going forward.
More successful. Yeah,
we're there.
Yeah. Well, like you said, that the people that do go to SpaCon, even though it's not a huge con like Comic-Con or even Arkansas Comic-Con, they're in love with it. It's almost a cult following. You know what I mean? Yeah. So the people that do go love it so much, and it's like part of the culture here is you see all your friends at SpaCon every year. You go back, you see your favorite vendors. I did notice that this last SpaCon was a bit
felt scaled back a little.
Yeah, it did. Yeah. It felt not as big, not as the panels were kind of repeated from previous years, you know, and it just didn't feel as vibrant as it usually did, And now, in retrospect, knowing that like, oh hey, they thought that was going to be the last one, I can kind of get that now.
Right. And I mean, and I'm not going to throw anybody under the bus. Again, I don't know all of the decisions and why certain decisions are made, but generally speaking, a convention visitors bureau, tourism bureau, they don't typically run conventions.
Right.
Their job is to find organizations, businesses to come to Hot Springs and put on events.
Right.
Like, hey, here's our venue, book it for a weekend, put on your event. And
Yeah.
and that's kind of more of a job.
We both benefit. Yeah.
Yeah, and so the idea that they had been running a convention for this long, for almost 10 years, it's kind of outside their wheelhouse a little bit,
Right.
which is why they reached out looking for somebody else to kind of do something instead.
Yeah.
And I know
More experience.
Again, yeah, looking through the you haven't done due diligence, it takes a lot of resources. Resources being people, time, effort, money,
Yeah.
to pull off something like this, even something the size of what SpotCon has been.
Right.
So yeah, it's you can't continue to throw the resources at it, yeah, and just not see the return. Yeah, it's just there's a lot that goes into putting on one of these events, and if it's not your expertise, if it's not something that's in your wheelhouse, it certainly can be overwhelming.
Yeah. Sure.
And again, like I said, the financials of it, you just got to make sure that a city can't continue to throw money at something if they're not getting some sort of
There's no return.
a return on their investment that they can put on paper to say, this is why we invested X amount of dollars into this, because it brought in the X amount of tourism books or whatever. So,
Right. No, and so like I was mentioning earlier, like the people that do go to SpotCon, they love it, right? And they come back, but like you said, at the end of the day, they still have to make a return. They still have to make it worth it. And I thought for the longest time, I thought it was weird that the city was the one that was running it. Like you said, I've never seen just like a city run a con.
I've not seen a city run a convention. So when I say generally speaking, what I'm saying is I've never seen it. So yeah, that was the take off the corporate hat, put on the normal human hat.
Right.
I've never seen this happen.
Never. Well, and maybe that's why it was such a unique event. It was run by people in the town, that live here, that have a very local, community-based audience. So that's why it became such a tight-knit community, because it was, the people that are running it, you'll see them downtown walking around,
Exactly. Yeah, those are your friends and neighbors. Yeah, they're the people you go to church with. The kids are in school with them. You're playing football together and stuff. So yeah, it totally makes sense that is why it has grown to what it has, is because it was a local thing.
It's the fact that you recognize that it's such a tight-knit community and you see potential in it. It actually gives you a lot more hope. It kind of changes the narrative to, corporate overlord to someone who's wanting to help and actually keep this thing afloat, right?
Yeah. I mean, we do shows. We have a bunch of other shows across Arkansas. So yeah, I mean, if it's another show that we can help make successful in Arkansas, then why wouldn't we do that? Right. It just has to make sense at the end of the day.
Yeah, of course. Now, I do have a couple questions that I've gleaned from the community. Some things that seem like pretty important to most people that go to SpotCon and people that are dedicated to this event. So I think the number one thing that I've really seen is the prices. People are scared that they're gonna jack up the prices, that it's not gonna be an affordable con like it has been. But I mean, like you were just saying, there's got to be a return somewhere. You're not doing it just for funsies, Yeah. Although it is fun.
Yeah, it is, but it's also a lot of work. So if it's a choice of spending the weekend at home, getting caught up on everything else, or going and having fun putting on a convention, most of us are going to just stay home and get our work done. If there's a reason to do a convention, there's got to be a reason to pull us out of our houses, out of the office, all of that to do it.
Right.
So yeah, talking about the prices a little bit. Yeah, it's, again, it takes resources to put on an event.
Right.
The prices are set, and I'll just kind of pull back the curtain a little bit. And I'll compare it a little bit to Arkansas Comic Con, if that's okay, because that's what a lot of folks online seem to be comparing it to.
Right.
So like I'll just start there and kind of work it into how we're approaching the pricing with SpaCon.
Okay.
So with Arkansas Comic Con, you have to pay for the venue, right? And for that show, it's a 3-day show there. So you have to have a day for setup. You have to have your first day of the show, second day, third day, tear it all down.
Right.
The rent for the facility for that weekend is typically, I mean, it's approaching 6 figures right now. We're not far away from 6-figure rental cost for that venue. So what we have to do is we have to set the prices accordingly, right? We have to set the prices based off the rental of the venue. You got to set it based off of, you got to include in your calculations the event insurance, which is not a small number, especially with as many people as that one has.
Some of the things that like the common person doesn't ever take into account.
Right. I mean, if you don't run a convention, did you know you had to buy separate insurance for every convention that you run? So things like that, bringing our people in to run it, bringing guests in to come meet the folks. All those costs go into it. So what you do is we set up our floor, our vendor floor, and our artist booths and stuff. And typically there's, it depends on how we lay it out that year, but there's typically 100 to 120 booth spaces available.
Right.
So those kind of need to pay for the venue, right?
Right.
So that's where those prices come from. Additionally, I know a lot of folks have been saying like, we can never get into Arkansas Comic Con. We're never going to have locals at SpaCon going forward because this company run it and we can't get into Arkansas Comic Con.
Right.
Arkansas Comic Con having 100 to 120 booths, we have over 400 applications every year for vendors and artists.
Right.
So just mathematically, just right off the bat, we're throwing out 3/4 of the applications. Not throwing them out. We're just not able to.
Right. We just can't do all that.
But you have to figure, okay, so how many artists and vendor booths do we have? What is our costs? What do those need to be? What price do we need to set for those?
Right.
So if you've gone and looked online at filled out the applications and stuff, the numbers are different than what you've seen in the past because again, it's got to pay for itself. That's kind of the one thing that you'll hear me probably say over and over again is we don't need this thing to become the next New York Comic Con.
Right.
We just need this thing to pay for itself to make it make sense. Wise, it's going to be a little higher than what you've seen in the past, or in some cases it might be a lot higher depending on what kind of a deal you got. You have a better chance of being a vendor or an artist having your booth at SpaCon than you do at Arkansas Comic Con for sure.
Right.
As far as how many of those, it depends on the applications. Typically we have and folks have seen this and have commented on this, we have a group of vendors that tend to go to multiple shows that we put on in a year.
Right.
They're not.
I know a lot of vendors travel from con to con.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not like Microsoft. It's not Google or Amazon. Like these are people who were mom and pop vendors in their town. It happens to be a town that we put on a convention. And they said, wow, even at that price, it makes sense for us to do some more of these because we're going to make that money back and then some. Go ahead.
Oh, well, I was going to say, even if the booth rental or the admissions does get increased, it just means more opportunity to have your products in front of more people,
Exactly.
So, and I genuinely think that now that SpaCon is continuing, I don't think it's going to decrease. You know what I'm saying? Especially now, like everyone's talking about SpaCon again, and
better or worse, they're talking about it.
And I think people are going to come check it out just to see, what changes there are and like how things are different, and to see if their friends are going to be there.
Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, we'll get applications. We have a lot of applications from repeat vendors who are not new to us. They've been at other shows,
right?
And so if let's say we had just round numbers. Let's say we had 100 booth spaces. We typically, there's a ratio we try to get of people that go from show to show with us and new local vendors, because the only way you're going to find the next person that wants to go show to show is if you're letting those local vendors in and see how they do and what they've got and how much they want to come back and maybe hit the road as well.
Right.
But if we have 100 of those, and let's say we're trying to get a good 50-50 mix, but we have 20 new local vendors put in applications, then we got to call up and bring in 30 more of the wait list people who are the travelers with us stuff. So when you get there, it looks like, well, they've only got 20 local vendors, 20% of this is local vendors. The rest of it's all, people coming from out of town. Well, you got to have the applications in there as well.
Right.
So for something like SpaCon, where we're kind of not starting from scratch, but it is a new, a new approach, a new business model, a new way to do it. Yeah, we've got to have, if we want to see local vendors there, local vendors are going to have to apply and get approved, and
Just like everybody else. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Otherwise, we've got a long list of people that are excited to come to SpaCon.
Right.
We're telling like, hold on, we got to get the locals a chance first.
Well, and I think that if, like I said, if you only have 20 vendors that apply, then you got to fill it up, And I personally, I think
The rental doesn't change,
Right.
right? If we book 10 vendors in that place, the rental cost is
you still got to pay the same amount of rent.
the rental cost is still the same. So
Right. I think it'd be good to bring in some diversity, some new vendors that we haven't seen before. And, of course, I think a lot of the reason why everyone loves SpaCon so much is because it was one of the more accessible cons, It was local, it was easy to get to, you can just come in with a limited amount of money and do whatever you want. But I think in order to grow, in order to make it more interesting and more fun throughout the years, something like this was inevitable,
Well, and it speaks to, again, like the Convention and Tourism Bureau's job is to bring more people to Hot Springs, or people to come to the venues, people to stay in the hotels, people to eat in the restaurants, people to shop, people to say, well, this is a cool little town. We might want to bring the spouse down here or the kids or whatever for vacation. So the idea is to attract more people from outside of the Hot Springs immediate area to Hot Springs for this event. So for us to be able to help the CVB meet that goal, we have to do some things different in order to be attractive to people to make it a destination. If it just stayed predominantly just the local people showing up, local residents, citizens, people coming for short ways outside of town, then the growth is not there.
Right.
You've got to attract new folks in, and that's what the CVB wants to do. That's what they want to put more of their focus and attention on, and they're partnering with us and asking us to help bring in some more people from outside the immediate area to help grow the event.
Right. And you bring your expertise and your tenure. You have experience doing cons like this.
To show, yes.
Yeah, you know what you're doing. So, I think this is going to end up being an overall net positive for the community. Whether we accept it at the moment or not, but like I said, I'm going to go either way. So, and I think that's
because there's no we're not sitting back judging people for what they're posting online. It's we get it. Change is hard. Change is different. Change can be upsetting. We understand that the numbers are different than what they used to be. We understand that the calendar is going to look a little different. We understand all this stuff. So yes, please vent those frustrations, but also give us some ideas. Like, this show is only as good as what we can do and what you guys can do.
Yeah,
it's a partnership. It's not just us coming to town putting on an event. We do rely on local vendors. We rely on local volunteers. We rely on local fan groups. We rely on local attendees. It's a partnership in that respect, and that's going to ultimately determine the success of this. Is how can we meet the passion that people have for SpaCon? So it's not going to be the same, but hopefully, once we get it going and you guys have a chance to experience it, it'll be okay. But you've got to, the proof's in the pudding, right? I can start to talk about it all day, but until we actually do it, Yeah. And so, I totally understand all the comments and stuff. Again, just don't shoot the messenger.
Well, I mean, if anything, it's an opportunity for the community to show how much they love SpaCon.
Absolutely, yeah. If everybody that's got a SpaCon t-shirt from previous years shows up in a SpaCon shirt, the people that are coming from out of town are going to look at that and go, wow.
Right.
These people are connected to this.
Right, yeah. There's another big talking point that I've seen online quite a bit is the VIP passes. People are curious of what's going to happen with the VIP. Is it going to be the same? Is it going to have all the same perks? Is it going to be more expensive? What can you tell us about that a little bit?
All I can tell you is there's two things, which here's the short version. I can't really tell you anything right now because we're still having conversations.
It's still in the works.
What I can say is we typically do not do VIP at our other events for a variety of reasons. However, we know that this event has had the VIP piece of it all along. So we're just trying to figure out a way to make that work within the philosophy of how we operate our conventions.
Right.
We're not saying there will never be VIPs. I'm not saying there will be VIPs. Can't tell you what the cost is because I don't even know if we're doing it yet. We just have to figure out the right way to do it that makes it make sense to us to continue to do that.
Of course.
No, and I think that's the smartest way to do it. Like even if you end up not doing the VIP, at least we're still having SpotCon. At the end of the day.
But at the same time, we don't want to pull the rug out from under anybody either. Part of it is on us to figure out ways to keep the vibe and the spirit of SpotCon and what people enjoyed about SpotCon alive. Not ready to announce anything, but we are looking at, do we need a group of people, boots on the ground, residents of business people in the various cities that we go to help us. It's kind of like an advisory council, hey, that's probably not going to fly here because of the culture of the city. Let's try something different. So yeah, that's something else that we're looking at as far as one of the things that we heard a lot of or saw a lot of online was nobody asked my opinion. And you're right. But now that we are behind holding the reins, now that we're in charge, how do we get the opinions of the people?
Right.
We can run online polls, but there's only, so much angle
Off in that bajillionation.
Yeah, you really need people who are familiar with the town, who are plugged in different ways. So we're working on not just for Hot Springs, but working at, across the board. How can we put together some sort of a way to formalize local participation and local voices in some of the decisions?
And people that are actually going to show up and help. Kind of like a SpotCon street team almost, except.
Yeah, in a way.
Okay. Well, that's actually, I think, is a great idea. One of the things that I'm really liking about speaking with you is that you guys clearly are open to ideas. You're not
absolutely.
You're not just coming in and be like, this is how we're going to do it. It's not, it's not SpotCon's over. Now it's blah, blah, blah con, So
we have done enough shows as a group, as a company, to know where our strengths are, and we don't know what our weaknesses are until this hot fuss. We've had weaknesses exposed at shows, believe me.
Right.
So yeah, we're always looking for opinions and suggestions and ideas of how to do things differently that would make it more effective, more efficient, whatever the case might be.
Right. And I think that's why I'm so grateful for you taking time to talk with me, because it's a very transparent look. It's like, okay, look, here we are. I know you guys weren't expecting this, but let's cross this bridge together and try and preserve what we can with SpotCon and improve what we can, And at the end of the day, I think that it's, well, like I said, a good opportunity for the community to show how much they actually support, and then an opportunity for you guys to show where you guys bring to the table too, and make SpotCon as the best a con as we can.